And we are live. Oh my goodness. So we're using some new software today. We're using Restream today instead of StreamYard. We're going to try this one out and see if it works. So we're going to apologize in advance. Before the show, we've hit a whole bunch of errors. They're kind of chucking Exodus out and things like that, and sound can't be heard. So hopefully it all goes well. Let us know what you think in the comments. And we'll go from there. But this is going to be a great show. So we're joined today by Buck from the Bison Wallet team, and as we know, Bison Wallet is this awesome software that's building a fully decentralized peer-to-peer exchange, probably the most advanced exchange in the whole space. And I mean, I said this behind the scenes, but one of the reasons I joined Decred way back when, I don't know how many years ago it was now, but 6, maybe 7 years ago, was because of this idea of an atomic swap exchange and some of the ideas that were put forward because of that. So it's high on my priority list for Decred. And it's really nice to have Buck with us today to kind of show where we're at, show where we're going, and to kind of put to bed any community concerns. So before we get into it, how are you doing, Buck? How are you doing, Exodus?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here. It's good talking to you guys. I haven't been on in, I don't know, years. I don't think. And
2.5 years, man.
Has it been that long? Wow. Okay. Well, lots changed in that time. The whole space has changed. Bison Wallet has a lot of new developments, and I know that you guys are always cheering for us. So I'm glad to be on to give you something back.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm just checking the YouTube. I'm not hearing audio from the YouTube video, and I just want to confirm maybe that's not just my end, but if you guys can pull that up. I have the YouTube video up, and it's not. I can't hear any audio from it.
Okay, well, we'll keep going, and maybe someone in the audience. Now, how many people we've got? We've only got one person in the audience, so I'm assuming that's you, Exodus.
That's me. Yeah.
I mean, I could probably check it. I'll tell you what, Exodus, just take over for a second, and I'll go off to YouTube, and I'll just check. And if we have to restart, we will. Go on, take over for a second.
If we have to switch to StreamYard, I think maybe that would be the best, just because this is experimental. The quality of this is quite good, though, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great to have Buck on. DCR Dex is exciting. Pure peer-to-peer atomic swaps doesn't get better than that, especially if you compare that to the security and of these other models like Thorchain. Even though they have better volume and stuff, the security trade-offs are real.
Yeah. I can confirm that we are live and the sound is working absolutely perfectly. So we're good to go. So I think that might be your end, Exodus. But yeah. Sorry, Exodus. Finish what you're saying.
No, it's great to have Buck here, and I hope it's just me that for some reason the sound isn't working. Maybe my browser's messed up, but it's great to hear what's going on with the decks, what we can expect from this next year coming up, especially as Decred kind of hits this mini bull market, so to speak. I saw today we kind of bounced back a little bit, which was nice. I don't know if you guys have checked the price yet.
I haven't checked today,
but I know it's been looking good over the past week or so that's good.
Price is always something that a lot of people are keen on, and I think, I mean, it's nice when we get positive momentum because everyone gets on board with Decred, and all of a sudden, the sun starts shining, and everyone's like, "Wow, Decred's doing all this stuff." It's like, yeah, it's always been doing this stuff, just because the price has gone up, it hasn't changed a thing actually. But let's get into this. So I want to start with you guys, and I've got this thing. I was watching a show the other day, and they did it, and it's kind of off the bat thing. So, in one phrase or one word, describe the state of Bison Wallet. So, from my own perspective, the state of Bison Wallet for me is awesome, but needs liquidity. How about you, Buck?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's fair enough. If I could say it in one word, I'd say we're sort of in a transitional phase right now. We are transitioning both from a user experience and user interface perspective to a new interface and some new interface elements. And then we're also transitioning to the mesh network. And I think where you don't see a lot of action happening in the release candidates or the releases, there's a lot happening on the back end to make those things occur so that our next major release is going to have a lot to show. Yeah. So transitional, I think, is what I would say. Yeah, very, very transitional right now.
Oh, nice. What about you, Exus?
I would use the word stable. It all works very well. You don't see users having issues at all. So it's very stable. But yes, obviously the liquidity is kind of the next step.
Yeah.
I know Jake is actually looking into running his own market maker bot and possibly even doing something regarding the automated market maker. But there is problems with that. There's impermanent loss. But yeah, the one word is absolutely, it's stable. It works. I think we've all here done the atomic swaps, and really I've never had issues with the atomic swaps, and I've done Bitcoin and the stable coins and even Litecoin. So it's completely stable, which is good.
Right. So and I don't think, I'm trying to remember if Coinbase is even on the latest release, but we also have Coinbase and MEXC as exchanges, and another mechanism for exchange, which we call multi-hop ARB, which allows us to make markets, allows market makers to make markets that don't have an exact match on the centralized exchange. So those are the things that we're testing on the back end right now. Those aren't going to make it into the V1.1 release branch, but on the next minor release, you will see some of these new features, as well as some neat things around like token bridging between networks and what else we got coming up? Yeah, those are the ones that are top of my mind right now, and I think those are going to be huge. Yeah.
I think, I mean, you've answered my next two questions, to be fair, which is no, it's absolutely fine. I like it when it just rolls like that, because the whole point is it's been a while. So what has the progress of Bison Wallet been over the last year or so, and what are we looking forward to? And I think the fact that we've got MEXC, we've got Coinbase, we've got multi-hop our bots is exactly what most people are thinking, because from my point of view, it's if Bison Wallet can connect to all these various exchanges, it should organically make the markets better, or it should at least help users connect to them and bring liquidity and pairs to that. But that's absolutely amazing. Is there anything else that you think is relevant for the progress that's been made? I mean,
let me just touch on what you're saying there about if we give them the tools, and the market makers will have if they have the tools that they need to make markets. Ideally, the markets would be more healthy, things like multi-hop ARB and new exchanges and things like that. But on the other hand, I think me and you are also maybe a little optimistic in that regard. So one thing we're looking at is just straight up incentivization. We need, and something that we've done in the past, Decredit's done this in the past, is incentivize market makers to make markets. Whether that's right now, the thing we're looking at is just, hey, if you make a market, we'll cover your fees and we'll give you a little dough for it, And Martin is building some of those tools right now. And then we're also constantly talking about how do we do that and mesh in a way that preserves privacy and allows us to be to properly authenticate the action, but also allows just about anyone who wants to come in and make a market to do that in a way that works for them and everyone else. And I've been able to talk some people into coming in and making markets in the past. Like, hey, if you want to market for Firo, say, come in, I'll put the market up. You got to come in and you got to make the market. And they'll come in and they'll make the market and quickly realize that unless there's action there, they're not gonna put a lot into their there's not a lot of incentive for them to do this. And then slowly over time, they disappear. So we need to make sure that even if the market maker isn't seeing a lot of action right off the bat, that they still have a reason to stick around and keep that market healthy. And that's the kind of conversations that we're having on the back end. Eventually, it's going to require us to ask Decred for some funds from the Treasury to incentivize these market makers. And I think that'd be something, maybe Exitus, you have a lot of interest in this. Maybe you could help us, sort of map out that space. What are people looking for? What kind of numbers do they need? What kind of, who's out there that would be interested in doing this kind of thing? So yeah, this certainly isn't my forte I'm mostly back-end coding stuff, a little bit of UI stuff. You guys may have maybe a better idea, or as people, may have a better idea of how can we bring people into the picture to keep these markets healthy in a way that also keeps them engaged and active as market makers on the market. So it's a conversation we're having in the deck or the Bison Wallet dev channels, but maybe we need to start widening that conversation a little bit and really starting to make some moves. Even writing a proposal would be good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the MEXC because as it stands, Binance is so geo-fenced. You can't use it in America, and for most of Europe, you can't use it because they got rid of USDT. So it's geo-fenced to really only Asia and Africa. And MEXC, if you have a VPN, you can use it from America. They're not strict with the KYC. Obviously, it's used at your own risk because they can arbitrarily just shut down your account.
Right.
But that's going to open up, I think, a lot more arbitrage people. We do have a proposal with Hummingbot. They just added MEXC, so we are going to be boosting liquidity there within the 1% range. So I think that's a really good development, and it's something I'm looking forward to. I do think we need to eventually use funds from the Treasury to make markets on Bison Wallet. It's going to be difficult to manage, and we have to learn how much inventory is going to be used. Is it going to be considered wasteful spending by stakeholders? But I think it just has to happen because it's going to give people an excellent way to accumulate Decred via Bison Wallet on, say, USDT or USDC with a tight spread, say a spread under 2%, under 1%.
Right.
Because there have been people that have run market maker bots, but I think even right now, I was checking this morning, there is someone running a market maker bot, but the spread is 6%. And when it's at 6%, it's like, why would you use this over, say, MEXC? You can go on MEXC and buy Decred with basic virtually.
My target, at least to begin, would be at least under 0.5%. But yeah, like you say, 0.2% would be amazing. And that if once we build up healthier markets, then we can even squeeze that down a little bit farther because they'll be getting more action on it. Yeah.
So in my next Decred Vanguard proposal, I was thinking of doing that. I wrote up a piece of basically, hey, this is the final puzzle piece for the Bison Wallet is having kind of healthier markets, especially for the stablecoin pairs, because the lot size for the stablecoin pairs is 0.1 DCR. It's very small, whereas for the Bitcoin pair, it's still 40 Decred per swap. And if you're someone new to the DEX, we all know how cryptocurrency works, where you want to do that small trade first to see, okay, does this even work? As opposed to doing the big trade of 40 Decred, which as of right now is about $900.
Right.
So I think that's something we definitely have to consider. And maybe in my next proposal, I'll do a very small amount, say $5,000 or $10,000 to ask. And that is contingent on, I know you guys are working on a market maker verification tool to verify if those funds are being used for the market maker. And I think when I tested the market maker, I do have an Umbral device, which is perfect for running a market maker 24/7 because the DEX is on Umbral, which is quite nice. If you run the market maker, it takes into account the fees you're going to incur. So I think the lowest it goes as far as percentage, as far as the spread, is like 0.9%, but I think it changes every so often. So I think that's a good target.
So a lot of that is based on lot size too. And as we move to mesh, one of the primary design principles of mesh is that the lot size is dynamic based on what your maximum fee exposure could be. So you're the one that says, okay, I could take up to a 0.1% loss on this trade. And that allows you to set a lot size and match with people who have a properly set lot size so that you can always make a trade and pay on-chain transaction fees that amount to less than a certain amount of your trade. So like the 40 lot or the 40 DCR, let me just give an example, the 40 lot Decred lot size on DCR BTC market, there's days where the Bitcoin fees are low enough where that lot size could be $2 or $1, but it's not built into the system that it updates dynamically as the fees change. The server doesn't even necessarily know what the on-chain. That's a lie. No, that's wrong. The server does know what the on-chain fees are, but the lot size itself is not dynamic in the DCR DEX protocol. So with the mesh protocol, it will be. As the fees change, the lot size itself will change. So you'll be able to do much smaller trades on mesh than you can on DCR DEX protocol. So it'll be an improvement, I hope.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, just to put my 10 cents in, I think we have this who goes first kind of problem at the moment. When people come into Bison Wallet and they see an empty order book, there isn't an initiative or incentive or a kind of a momentum to go, oh, I'm just going to put my orders up there and just leave them, because the first thing that somebody, especially new users, and this is what we found when Bison Wallet first came out, the Bison Wallet version 1 came out, and we'd have a live stream. Both myself and Exitus would put up the markets, and we'd have the live stream. So when we were onboarding people, it was like, oh, I just take it. And that's the first thing that people want to do, is actually they want to be a taker. They want to see something's there, and they just want to take it so they can try it out. And from that experience, we were able to onboard quite a few people actually and get them testing it. But then as time goes forward, and obviously my Exitus's order books weren't always live. I personally haven't worked out how to run an always on machine yet, which I'm hoping to do and I want to do, and I've got funds there waiting to go on it, but it kind of has to be right for me. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. But that's the problem we have at the moment, is this: who goes first? And like we were talking about with the bootstrapping liquidity from the treasury, I think that kind of has to happen, and then we can start building up the marketing. And I kind of see this. I see this in three phases, if you like. The first one would be a standalone proposal that just basically says, hey, we want X amount of money, and it probably is going to be 10, 20, 30,000. And that money will just be to put orders on constantly, to fill the order books. So literally they could be whatever orders, $10 orders. But when someone comes on, the order book is full. The job of that first proposal probably wouldn't be to tighten the spread to 1%. It's just so that, hey, they are full. Maybe 3% probably would be the closest. And those orders are going to be there. Maybe 3 or 4 people would just run that first proposal where it's just, if there's a pair on Bison Wallet, it needs to be full. Yeah. Both sides of the order book needs to have orders on it. The second thing that I see is what Exitus is proposing with his Vanguard, which is the Vanguard guys go on and they fill those order books, whichever order books they want to, down to that 1%. And personally, I don't think Bison Wallet for the time being needs to go much lower than 1%, maybe even 2%, because if you think about it, there's no fees. And that's something we should highlight more. When you do a trade on Coinbase or whatever, there's a 1% fee. So yeah, it looks like it's really close, but you're paying that 1% fee, whereas Bison Wallet doesn't have that. Obviously, there's other things, but certainly that 1 to 2%. So that's the Vanguard. And the other thing that I'd like to see is maybe an initiative from the actual Bison Wallet dev team, where in their proposals they get allocated a certain amount of money, maybe just a couple of thousand or whatever, but they are running the order books as well, and they are testing as well. One of the things that I'm seeing is I want to see, if a dev is building something, I want to see that they are hitting those problems way before we hit them. So I do see it as a 3-pronged strategy, if you want, where you have this proposal that fills the order books, you have the Vanguard group getting in there and getting down to the spread, and then you have the Bison Wallet team that are actually kind of just constantly testing, leaving their orders on, testing it, and just making sure that there are no unseen problems. I mean, what do you think about that in terms of a strategy?
No, I think you hit all the points there. I know that me and Exitus probably both winced a little bit when you said 3% spread, but other than that, I think getting those books healthy. And when it comes to the Bison Wallet devs hand testing, using the product so that we can see when bugs pop up, and we're the most obviously we're the most adept, or the most suitable people to find those bugs, see what they actually are, trace them down, and figure out what needs to be done. I think that makes a lot of sense. One thing that I've noticed is that when people come on and they try to make a market or they try to do a trade, I as far as from my view as a dev, I'm watching these things happen. I'm talking to these people ahead of time, and then sometimes it'll be weeks later, they'll be like, oh, something happened, some bug, so I stopped, or I stopped making the market because I saw some bug and I didn't know what to do about it. And it's hard, on one hand, it's like, well, talk to me. Like, if you saw a bug, talk to me. But on the other hand, it's not their job. So there's a little bit of both happening there. I would like to encourage people to submit bugs when they see them and work with me, and especially if they lost some fees, because it's atomic swaps. You're not going to lose your money. But if you lost some fees or something, I would reimburse you for those things. But it's important that we have a dialogue with people who are coming in, the people who are coming in to make markets and are willing to, take the extra step beyond being just a normal user. There has to be a back and forth going on. So part of it is like, yeah, we need to recruit the right people who are willing to help us, develop the ecosystem and are willing to be a part of that, rather than they're just here to make the fees as they come in their pocket. So yeah, I appreciate the thinking that you have on this sort of strategy.
I mean, the reason I'll clarify the 3% thing or 2% thing is because that first proposal isn't about kind of getting the spreads down. It's to make sure that those orders are always there, to make sure that when people come on, and that's really for new people, so that when people come on, they say, oh, look, those order books are full. The spread's not great for that proposal, but the orders are always there. And if you put them down to 2% or whatever, that you might get what Exitus calls impermanent loss or whatever. But it's a bit outside of what I'm, it's just me kind of spitballing, if you like. So if you guys think that main proposal should be down to 1%, I don't have a problem with that.
So,
I think that'd be really attractive.
With again, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but with the market maker, there's 3 different strategies with the market maker. The one that's ARB plus MM, which connects orders on the DEX to the orders on the centralized exchange. Ideally, if you don't get front run on the checks, then both orders match. Impermanent loss is not a thing in that ideal scenario. So that's something that we have that you can't duplicate on sort of like an automated market maker thing like MetaMask or Uniswap. I mean, which is great, but things can also, nothing works perfectly all the time, and there's a chance that your order doesn't match on one or the other, and then you can experience impermanent loss. So it's not that we've eliminated it, but we've minimized it at the very least. And then one other thing I wanted to mention is we've talked about the simple swap interface. People just want to exchange this for this. They don't want to know what an order book is. They don't want to know what a limit order is, and that's great. And that's something that with the new UI that we've been working on is front and center. People don't have to use an advanced trade interface with candlesticks and depth charts and things like that in order to exchange one thing for another. What I've seen other coins do is they have liquidity providers who just look for those orders and match them, and then take a small fee, which either comes out of the match or it comes out of as part of our incentive program. That's something that we would pay them to do, is when people want the simple swap, we need to, and this is there's just messaging in the back end that has to happen here. But when people want to do this simple swap, if there's not enough liquidity on the market, we still want those to match, and we still want to incentivize someone to make those orders match right away, even if they take a small loss on the match to fees or a tiny bit of slippage or something, then we're able to reimburse them for that small loss out of some funds that we've allocated to exactly that purpose. So, there's a few different ways that we've been talking about it. Yeah, when we're talking about integrating that simple swap sort of interface into this entire scheme, it adds some nuance to what happens, because that user doesn't see a book. They don't know anything, and but what they do know is that if I'm selling my Bitcoin for USD and it says $95,000 for Bitcoin on CoinSwap, and the rate I'm getting on Bison Wallet is $85,000, that's problematic for them. So, but we do need, even if the book is completely empty, we want to be able to match those people in a decent amount of time, in a short period of time, less than a minute each, let's say. So we need to incentivize market makers, not just as people who keep the books healthy, but possibly incentivize maybe a different type of market maker or liquidity provider who watches for those orders or watches for those sort of simple swaps and is able to match those, knowing that even if they lose a little bit on fees in that match, that they're able to be whole in the end by some kind of incentive program.
Yeah, I mean, everything rings really well there, and I think a lot of people like the simple swap. I know Exitus has been playing around with things like near intents, and I think that has a very simple swap nature to it. And so to kind of have that element would be absolutely awesome. I mean, talking about kind of getting people on board, obviously Exitus wants to do this with his Vanguard group. And then it kind of brings me around to thinking about docs and tutorials. And I've put a few together for how to use Bison Wallet. But I think we kind of need somebody from the main team to actually do maybe a guide for how to set up and run an always on machine, what the recommendations are there, and what the best requirements are there. And we were talking before the show, and like I said, and myself and X has been talking for ages, and I was looking at Umbrel for a little while, but then I'm noticing that like the Umbrel doesn't get the latest releases, so that becomes problematic if I always want to be up to date. So then I'm thinking about Windows 11 having just a standalone machine that's always on. The MacBooks I've got are useless for it. They just literally, if I close the lid or if I leave it for half an hour, it literally just goes off, and there's nothing you can really do about that. It's a pain in the ass. So it would be nice, especially if we are going to get the Vanguard group involved in this, who they're not particularly technical, but they will do it. And I mean, I don't know if you've been following Decred's node count, but Exitus did a Vanguard initiative to get the Vanguard group to run nodes. So we went from 98 nodes, and now we're up to, is it 160 something Exitus? And that was just purely because
we added well over 50 nodes using, all running VPSs. So these aren't just nodes being run in some guy's basement. They're all professionally run. The main thing, we did have a few people running market makers, but the issue they kind of had is when there's volatility in the market, or the price shoots up or shoots down, the market makers are a little slow to react. What happens is someone can just come in and completely drain them. They take that order and they arbitrage, and the market maker gets drained. And I think, is there any plans to maybe, I don't know, make it so the market makers update a little bit quicker to avoid that, or specifically look for something like that? Because the Decred price can fly like crazy. We've all seen it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting. Thank you for that observation. Yeah, it's there are some settings that you can do on your market maker to help with that. And also I just talked to the other day to Martin. It's funny you bring that up, about having the market maker place its orders in a more strategic way so that the market itself doesn't sort of flash on and off when they do when they cancel orders and replace them with new orders and stuff like that. So having an eye on that sort of user experience aspect of the liquidity. It's not just there's liquidity there, I'm doing my job by putting it on the market, but putting that liquidity there and making sure that you have funds in reserve such that you can keep it there is another part of this big picture that we need to think about. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
It would also be quite nice to get, I don't know, just to go back to my first point, get some docs for how to use the market makers as well, like properly. That is one thing. Setting up a market maker is very, very simple. But then after doing it, it's have I got my strategies right? And it'd be quite nice for especially like Martone or whatever to say, hey, this is a good strategy where you won't lose money, X, Y, and Z or whatever. So that was the final point. Just having
maybe
guides.
We can talk Martin into putting together a tutorial video about how to set up your market maker or something. That'd be neat.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like,
we'll have Martin walk you through it. You can do it.
I'm happy to do it on live stream. But it is the point of if there's some kind of guide, whether it be video or docs, that I want to set up a market maker. You do step 1, step 2, step 3, bang. I want to set up an always on machine. You need this, bang.
No, I haven't looked in a while. Do we have something in the wiki about market making, don't we?
There wasn't very much.
I can look afterwards, but if there's not, it's certainly something that we need. Yeah, we'll get that up.
When I was putting the videos together for the ones that I did, there wasn't much there, so I was kind of like fumbling around with it, and it's not really what people want to see, is it? Someone like me just fumbling around. It's like,
and the interface is changing right now too, so maybe that's one of the reasons that Martin hasn't wanted to put up a wiki yet, because a lot of things are still in flux with the market making stuff. He's been doing some work on the user interface there too. So.
And it's also the final docs stroke simple guide, or whatever you want to call it, is how to set up an ARB bot. And that's something most people are like, oh God, I haven't got a clue how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be ridiculously useful if you want liquidity to flow from MEXC. And MEXC is probably the one most people use, because I think if we do it from Binance, there's all kinds of taxation for me, at least. I don't know if it's the same for you guys in America, but every swap kind of goes under a taxable event. So MEXC, I don't think has, you don't have to KYC with that. So that would
it'd be good if we could find a way to start aggregating those and presenting the data in a way that's useful for claiming your taxes. I know that's a problem with everyone right now, especially since I think in the United States, centralized exchanges are required to report every single trade now, which it isn't that big of a deal. But if you're a market maker and you have 10 trillion trades, you don't necessarily have to have a form for the IRS with 10 trillion trades. You can aggregate those into daily sort of average or daily sums and stuff like that. And if we could provide that tooling at some point, I'm looking out of the future quite a ways, but in the future at some point, if we could provide that sort of aggregation, that would be helpful for people, I think.
I mean, Coinbase does make it very simple. Every year when I have to do my taxes,
Nice.
I just download this sheet, and it's right there. There's a few things where it doubles up, but it always kind of takes and pluses. But the fact that it is a taxable event, it just becomes very, very expensive, especially if you're, But if you're dealing with MEXC, or what was the other one? Was it near intents that we're getting on at the minute, Exitus? If you're dealing with those, there's no KYC, so presumably, it doesn't touch that event until you actually move it to fiat, which is probably going to.
Yeah, near intents is a DEX, so yeah, there's nothing. It's a very good system. We actually had this developer from Vietnam just come forward and do the initial work to do test swaps, and now we're just waiting on the near guys to kind of get back to us. Unfortunately, Decred just isn't a priority for them right now, unless we can keep moving up in coin market cap. But it's a good development, and I think that'd be a huge win for us to be on near intents. And hey, maybe we can integrate near into Bison Wallet to kind of solve that simple swap solution, because I think their system is really good. I don't know if you guys have tried it yet, but it's the interoperability is incredible with the near intents.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to integrate stuff I would even love to integrate like a Uniswap as one of the exchanges we can arb against or something like that. And another one that keeps popping up when we were doing research on user experiences, everyone wants Solana, and I don't see why we shouldn't do it. I don't know. It didn't feel to me like it was just a trend. It felt like something that's going to be around for a while compared to some of the other coins that people were mentioning. But yeah, so I don't know exactly what the near protocol is, but I'll take a look at that.
Yeah, I know Exitus has been doing quite a lot of work with that one.
They just added it into Cake Wallet, so which is really cool. It's something that works really well on mobile devices. So it's I'd strongly recommend testing it out. You could do it works well with Zcash. They have a bunch of layer 1 coins, and that's why adding Decred isn't super difficult. They already have Bitcoin and Zcash and I think Litecoin. But yeah, strongly recommend testing that out. It's they've already done a few $1 billion in volume this year, and they actually were one of the reasons that helped one of the systems that helped Zcash kind of gain its success this year. So yeah, strongly recommend looking into it's called Near Intents. You do need their token to power the swaps, though, from what I remember.
I see. Yeah, and another thing we've been looking at sort of on the horizon is the Alchemy Pay integration into the Bison Wallet interface. That'd be sweet. Or even if it has to, open as an external link on your browser or something like that, being able to pre-populate fields and stuff like that, and have Alchemy Pay as an option to fund your wallet. I don't know if you knew that, but Martin got the whole account abstraction set up, so you don't have to have Ethereum in order to buy Ethereum on the market. That's always been a hurdle. So like if you have Decred and we set up, or Polygon, I should say, if you have Decred and we set up a Decred Polygon market, usually you wouldn't be able to trade on that market initially because if you don't have anything in your Polygon wallet, because you need Polygon to fund the transactions that make the trades. Martin has the account abstraction done now so that you can actually trade and buy Polygon without having Polygon first. There's always that chicken and egg thing with the Polygon purchases. So that should ease a little bit of friction for those types of markets. And once you buy the Polygon, then you can trade, other tokens on the Polygon network. So that's another thing that I forgot to mention earlier when you were asking what's new.
Speaking of that, recently I was testing out Base, and initially I thought the Base transactions were free, but it turns out that Coinbase just subsidizes all the transactions. You actually do need Ethereum to do the transactions. Yeah. I was just curious, what's the status of the Base integration, or do you guys even think we're going to use Base? Because truthfully, the Polygon works really well in my experience.
Yeah, so I'm interested in completing the Base thing. We got Base working, but so Base uses what's called the OP stack protocol. It's the same thing as Optimism. And one part of that protocol is that all transaction data that's done on Base is actually committed to, all the data is committed to the Ethereum chain as a compressed blob of data. And they're able to compress it like 95%, but you still have to pay those fees on that are required for that information to be committed to the Ethereum chain. So when we did the Base integration, initially how it was done is we just assumed it was just like any other EIP 1559, like any other Ethereum virtual machine chain, and we set up our fee structure like that. But we didn't account for those what's called the layer 1 security fees, the fees that are required to commit that data to the actual layer 1 chain Ethereum. And the way that we're still trying to hack around exactly how both you predict those and then figure out the final value on those. Now, you said something about Ethereum is subsidizing, or I'm sorry, Coinbase is subsidizing the fees. Do you know if that's the layer 2 fees or the layer 1 fees or what they're, because there's
so every Base transaction costs Ethereum as the gas, but when you use it on Coinbase, it all just works. Like there's no fees, but it turns out Coinbase behind the scenes obviously is just paying for all the fees, and they batch transactions to save money. But you think it's free, but no, it's just them choosing to subsidize it to make their network run really well for their users.
Okay, yeah, that'll be interesting because a Base is a very odd chain. Well, I shouldn't say very odd, because chains like Arbitrum do this too, but the Base token on Base is Ethereum, which, like you said, it's used to pay the gas and the fees. And it's a bridged Ethereum as a Base token, whereas like Polygon, they're in Ethereum virtual machine chain, and their Base token is Polygon, and that's a lot easier to work with than having the bridged Ethereum. So yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, okay.
It could be the only value in doing the Base is just demonstrating the layer 1 swaps from, say, layer 1 Bitcoin to something on Base. Maybe Coinbase finds that interesting. Maybe they'll give us some kudos and give Decred a listing based on that and say, hey, they're doing cool things and they're working with Base. Maybe, but the Polygon works really well. But yeah, what you're saying, you have to have bridged Ethereum to use it. That's actually something I came into because I was doing Cake Wallet swaps.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do Base at first because I thought it was free, and it turns out it wasn't. And then I needed bridged Ethereum, and eventually I just said, no, I'm just going to use Polygon because Polygon works so well, and it's so proven, and the fees are so low. And that's another thing is the Ethereum fees are just a bit higher. Like Polygon, you pay like less than 1 cent per transaction. And with Ethereum, you're probably paying at least a few cents, which, if you think about it, it's kind of a big difference.
The issue we've been having with Polygon is something with their fee mechanisms, something with the way they have their fee algorithm structured, is they get these days where they have these really big spikes where the fees will go up like 100 times for a few blocks and then fall back down. And then that's causing people to have swaps that take a long time, and then they get all worried and they start writing us, why is my swap taking so long when it should be done in 5 minutes or whatever. But ideally that wouldn't happen, or they would fix that. But when we move to mesh and have the sort of what am I looking for? The dynamic fees and lot sizes, that should do a little bit of work on that, smooth that out a little bit. And then also we have something called transaction acceleration. We've had it for Bitcoin for a long time. We actually have it for Ethereum, but I don't think it's set to do it automatically, because it would be pulling more funds out of your wallet than you had committed to when you initially made the swap. So we have to possibly give users an option to do that automatically, where if there's a Polygon spike and you want your transaction to go through anyways, then you need to be able to pay a little bit more in fees and replace that transaction so that we can get it through. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where we were going there, but yeah.
I mean, Exus, thanks for that information. And I'm going to apologize to everyone I've ever talked to, because I literally always thought it was completely free. I use Base quite a bit to go to USDC and back. And like I said, Coinbase doesn't charge me a thing. So I've always thought, it's just some mechanism that they've done that makes it. So yeah, that's really good information. And with that information, I think I would probably stick with Polygon, which is a real shame. But because you kind of, it shows the levels that these centralized exchanges will go to to try and streamline the experience.
Yeah.
And then it's not until you take their product off of their system that you go, oh crap, it's just gone to rubbish. I liked what you were saying about Solana, and I tend to agree with you that people like it, people want it. It's probably going to be around for a while, so you might as well have it. I also like the point that you now can make your first trade with Polygon without actually needing Polygon, and that was a real pain point for
Yes,
a lot of people.
definitely.
So I think that's absolutely huge. I'm really gutted about that base thing, Exodus. You've got my mind working now, and it's
in the end with base, I expect on Cake Wallet, but also on Bison Wallet, we can implement the blockchain. It's not going to be free by any means. You can expect the fees on base to be, if what I looked up, if I'm remembering this correctly, somewhere between 5 and 10% of whatever the fees are currently on Ethereum. So if it's a $2 transaction fee on Ethereum, then you're going to be paying 10 to 20 cents on base, which is not nothing, but it's also a vast improvement. So trade-offs.
I mean, Polygon, most of the trades you do on Polygon between Decred and USDC on Polygon is like a fraction of a penny. So it's huge. Right. It's huge actually. When they're selling this,
is also just about free, if I remember correctly.
Arbitrum. Yeah, when they are selling it as, oh, this is completely free, there's no token, and then you hear this, it kind of it gets the old cogs working again. Oh, for God's sake, I've been duped into it again. That's the crypto way.
As far as Solana goes, have the people who have been asking for it, do we know if these are like serious users, or these people on mobile phones saying why where's Solana? Because I feel like the type of person who's using Bison Wallet, obviously it's only on desktop. Obviously you need to have a system with good uptime to do the swaps. Are these the type of people to use Solana? Because I know you guys ran that you did a research thing with a few different people, and of course they're like, oh, where's Solana? But are these the type of people that would use Bison Wallet? Because Solana, to their credit, they've created this whole infrastructure where the whole thing is accessed through your phone, and you can easily put in your debit card to go buy things, and then they have their whole own DEX infrastructure to do swaps. So if adding Solana to Bison Wallet isn't a huge amount of work, I think I would support it. But if it's a huge amount of work, it's kind of like, is the average Solana user even going to use this? You have to ask those kind of tough questions.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's not something I'm rushing into right away. It needs to be explored further. But my understanding is that to do a Solana Lite wallet is something similar to doing an Ethereum wallet. They use RPC providers just like Ethereum does. The protocol isn't totally dissimilar to Ethereum, but there's enough difference there that it would have to be a rewrite of the sort of wallet code base from the ground up. Probably some copy pasting could be done, but for the most part, it would be an endeavor. So yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's not something that we're rushing into right away. It's just one of the many things that are on our horizon that we're trying to gauge user interest in at the time, and we'll see what happens. Yeah,
I think this.
No, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say new assets in general is something that we aren't focused on at this moment in time. We could be adding all kinds of tokens to our Polygon and Ethereum networks. That stuff like that is low hanging fruit. But right now we've identified enough problems or just enough friction and user experience issues with the user interface and with the markets being illiquid, that I think those are the things that we are focusing on right now. Now, that said, if you know guys who really want to tackle these problems and are willing to do some coding, send them our way. We've made some changes recently where we started billing as Bison Craft, an LLC that we set up. And one thing that helps us do is to bring in new talent without having to run through the entire onboarding process for new programmers and stuff. We can actually have them do a little bit of work before, or maybe they never have to do the onboarding process. But so the DAO employment model is great for us. I think that we've all grown an appreciation of that model, but it's also a big hurdle for a lot of people who have worked in more traditional sort of employment markets in the past. So if you know guys who want to do some coding and are interested in tackling these problems, send them our way, and we'll start figuring out a way to bring them into the picture and have them do some work.
What kind of developers are you specifically looking for? If you could, I don't know, give us some tips of what area they should be proficient in.
So again, what problem are we talking about? Some of the proposals I'm looking to open up are user interface stuff. So if you know someone who has a lot of experience with React, which is the framework we're switching to, send them my way. I've got one or two guys who have a little experience and are willing to go along the learning curve. But if you know someone who's a whiz with it, that would be a great asset for us. If we're talking about some of the protocol stuff, market maker stuff, they need to be a good Go coder, and more importantly, they need to be interested in this problem. I don't need just a guy who's written a lot of Go in the past. I need a guy or a girl or whoever, but who has an interest in markets and trading and atomic swap protocols and all of these sort of things, and is will stay engaged with the problem as they work through it. A lot of guys come in and they're like, I can do this and I can do this and I can do this, and I'm like, okay, we'll tackle this problem, and you can see they just fall off right away because they have no interest in the sort of problems that we're tackling. So it's there has to be a match there. The nice thing is though, with billing as the LLC and having not being able to avoid the DAO onboarding process for some new guys, we can widen our pool of talent that we can draw from. So if you know guys that are interested in these problems, but match them to the problem.
Yeah. And to what you were saying earlier, yeah, I think the focus at this point should be almost exclusively on Decred. You guys did a great job adding Litecoin and some of these other ones, Firo. I think, yeah, the focus should just be, Decred, Decred Bitcoin, Decred in the stable coins, and just make those markets as healthy as possible, make that as attractive as possible. Because kind of from what I've seen, it's mainly just Decred people using the DEX after, several years of development.
Yeah.
And I guess my next question is, speaking of other coins, do you have any updates on the Monero, the status of the Monero? Because I think that was kind of one of the main focuses over the past year and a half was trying to get Monero to work. I know adding Monero is like a huge task. Like someone told me it involved
a royal pain in my ass.
rewriting you have to rewrite the entire DEX to add Monero, which is kind of wild if you think about it, because there's no guarantee that they're going to show up and use it, even though I think they are a bit more of a technical community.
Yeah. No, I mean, the update I have is that we're moving along. I don't know if you follow the pull requests and the comments on the pull requests, but the way that we're doing Monero is a little bit clunky, and the way that we're sort of relying on some binaries and things like that we're pulling down. I'm trying to talk to the guys about doing it in a way where everything is compiled in and we have the wallet as a one-click wallet. But that's not a small task. I think right now we're going to get it done in this way that is, from the user's perspective, it's not too bad. From the user experience perspective, it's not too bad. But on the back end, the way that we're doing it is something that I'm very unsatisfied with. System resource wise, it's not great. It's going to be a process. But if we can, I think we're getting close to something where we at least have the Monero wallet where they can hold and send and receive Monero. And then for the swapping of Monero, we're not going to see that till mesh. We're not even going to implement that on the DCR DEX protocol. So because it's a whole different process, the way that we have DCR DEX set up and the way that orders are done on DCR DEX, everything would have to be retooled. But with mesh, it's a lot easier. So we're
Have you guys considered approaching the Monero CCS proposal system, especially now that their price increased so much? They've got a number of wealthy holders, so to speak. Have you guys considered doing that, not only for funding, but maybe to get a few developers? Because certainly that would attract developers from the Monero ecosystem who know the protocol so well and, might want to see that.
I hadn't personally considered that for Monero, but, it's only been coming up on my radar. The sort of problematic nature of our implementation has only been really coming up on my radar more and more lately. So it's something, thank you. Yeah, let me, you said it's called the C, will you, let's message afterwards and you let me know. It's called the CC, what do you call it?
Yeah, it's their proposal system. They have it's all community funded, but it works. It's similar to Politeia, where you submit a proposal and there's milestones. And I think you have to you have to be pretty prepared for their proposal system. It's not like, oh, we might do this work. It's like you have to do the work and you get paid based on the milestones. but it's called a Monero CCS proposal. I forget what those words mean. Let me look it up, but it's called Community Crowdfunding System, CCS. But if you're looking for developers, it could be a great way to draw attention. And Monero's gotten so big, I think it would bring a lot of eyes on Bison Wallet itself to just submit a proposal there and say, hey, this exists. It's a great atomic swap tool. And the other DEX, Basic Swap, did a CCS proposal there, and they got like hundreds of thousands of dollars to continue building out their system. And to be completely honest, I think Bison Wallet's like years and years ahead of their system, both in terms of swapping experience, the UI. Theirs doesn't even have stable coins. Yeah. So I think if you guys were to do something there, I think it would be successful, and you would get funding and you'd get new developers. Obviously, there's the problem of maybe people who work on Bison Wallet don't want to be associated with Monero, because it kind of has the whole, there's negative connotations with that protocol, because it's always quote used by criminals or whatever.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me a bit. But in terms of reaching out and getting funding from their own development pools or whatever, that's something.
Especially because you guys have been working on Monero for 1.5 years already, so it's not like, oh, you haven't started. You do have some experience working on it, and there's some. I've seen the photo of the Monero wallet in Bison Wallet, so you've already kind of committed to it, which maybe they'll like, but. I would love to see that personally.
We also have something similar with Zcash, where I've been talking to those guys, and they have various funding things to do in a light wallet. They want us to kind of switch over to their new full node tech, and I don't think we want to put any more time into Zcash full node. But light wallet stuff, they said they're willing to fund through a couple of different mechanisms. And having a Zcash light wallet that has a shielded first model would be a big draw too. Bison Wallet and privacy, that's always something we lean into. This is part of it's a core design principle of the wallet and DCR DEX, and especially Mesh from the ground up is privacy. So these privacy coins are something that I think that we really want to connect with. These communities, these privacy coin communities are people that we really want to connect with. Yeah.
It's privacy season.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Going forward, because obviously we talked earlier about communities shouting very loud about, hey, we want to be integrated into Bison Wallet, and then they never turn up. We've had that a few times. Zcash, like we just mentioned, Digibyte. I know Pharaoh is still a work in progress, but that is it worth thinking about a new strategic approach for integrations?
Obviously, I think the strategic approach for all of these, and like. For instance, all the coins that Exitus listed off just a little bit ago that we've seen activity on are coins that we can set up integrated internal wallets with no external software, one-click setup. And the way to get Digibyte and Pharaoh and these guys, different communities, to actually use our wallet is to allow them to one-click setup. So one of the 3 proposals that we're going to be seeing here in the next couple of months, 2-3 months, is the integration of internal Electrum wallets where there's no external Electrum wallet to connect with. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced connecting to a Pharaoh Electrum wallet or to a Bitcoin Cash Electrum wallet. You could even, what else do we have? We have Doge, Pharaoh, Bitcoin Cash. We have Litecoin has an Electrum wallet too. All of these. Getting the Electrum wallet set up, and then getting all the settings right in the interface so that they connect, and getting you have to do some command line stuff even just to get the APIs open on the Electrum wallet so we can connect to. It's a huge hurdle for people who have zero technical skills. We can get those as one click. We already have the software written to do Go Electrum wallets. Integrating those into Bison Wallet is going to be a step, but when we talk about these coins not having any users, they never show up. Well, of course they're not going to show up because they can't create a wallet. Essentially, you can't. If 95% of the users have never typed a command into a command line, then there's no way we can expect them to actually use this wallet without being able to set it up with one click. So that's where I'm at with that. One of the 3 proposals I hope you'll be seeing out of me soon. I hope soon is integration of something called UTXO wallet, which includes the built-in Electrum wallet. So that'll be a thing you'll see.
I think that's a spot on answer. Actually, I think that's brilliant. I mean, in terms of strategic approach, that was just the first part of it, but the second part was about so that we can do more marketing things. Is actually approaching these communities for funding, devs, and obviously the support of the community, and kind of like we were talking about earlier about having when you have a release, you kind of bring all the elements together. So every time you integrate a new coin, you kind of try to bring all of those elements together. But you're completely right. In actual fact, getting that native one-click wallet for every pair is going to be such a monumental step, and it will streamline the whole thing, because you're not wrong. You know, a lot of the Digibyte guys, especially, we had people trying to set up the full node, and it was like 4 days later, and it's like, I'm at 10% or whatever. I tried the Pharaoh full node, and I think it just paused at about 50% for me in the end. It was like, this is too much. But having it native makes complete sense. And I think, in actual fact, for the pairs we already have, that should bring in lots, and then we can start remarketing to those people.
That also opens the door for mobile wallets. Once we have built-in Electrum wallets, that also opens the door for mobile wallets. So that's another thing.
I like it. Was it actually? I don't know who it was, but somebody said that they had connected their Cake wallet to Bison Wallet, and I can't remember who it was, but they were well impressed about it. So that's good. Maybe that was a Decred user. I can't remember. And no, I think that pretty much covers that area for me. I think the integration process and actually having a process that kind of says, okay, how is, and we did talk about standalone proposals for every integration, just to make sure that the community wants them as well. But having that process where we engage with that community, and I know it seems a bit cheap to kind of ask for funds when we kind of already have funds, but it's just a way of kind of getting their back in, isn't it? So I quite like that idea of that process. And by the way, that is something that both myself and Exitus are more than happy to kind of get involved in. If you guys, because obviously you don't want to be spending time dealing with other communities. That's what we do. That's our thing. So
I think historically that's been true. I've been trying to open my horizons and too, but certainly it's going to be a group effort for talking to the right people, making sure we have good information, and then pushing these proposals through to these various funding mechanisms.
I mean, anything you want us to do in that regard,
Sure.
that absolutely. Exitus, anything else you want to put on that? I think I might be coming to the end of my notes here, but there's a couple of things. But anything else you want to add there?
I think that's all I had there. I was wondering what's going on with the coin market cap. As you know, on coin market cap, you can add the markets. And I think this is something a lot of people are looking at. People probably look at coin market cap to check the performance and price of a coin in the updates, probably more than anything at this point. And I was just wondering, are there plans to get, Bison Wallet on the Decred Markets page?
Yeah, I had bought, what did I do? Bison. I'm trying to remember that's right. Okay. I have the domain name bison.exchange, and I had been using that for doing some testing and stuff like that, but I'm repurposing that to have that interface that you had actually proposed a couple interfaces that I think you had AI sort of draw up.
Bison Watch.
Yeah, right. But the interface is the only part of the problem. I actually wrote the interfaces. It was part of my learning curve for React. I took the time to write those interfaces, then React, so that we could move forward with this UI stuff. But as I dug deeper, I think I had asked you for a little bit more information on the API requirements. As I dug deeper, it looks like you have to have some API endpoints and stuff like that are very structured, very specific. And I haven't gotten around to that. I sort of lost track of it. But I guess my thing is, I think it would be great to get DCR Dex's DCR BTC market. Is that the only one we're looking at, or is it? I guess that's the only one.
I would say for now that probably be the only one worth adding. And
it'd be great to get it on there. You're pretty much the only one that's asking me for it regularly. But I'm not saying that doesn't make it important, but it's something that's fallen off my radar a couple times. I'll try to dig back in.
Air Sand Fire asked a question about liquidity. Right at the beginning, we covered it in huge amount of depth. I don't think we need to add any more for how to bring liquidity to DEX, unless there's anything you specifically want to add to that question, Buck.
Nope, I got.
No, I think we covered that in a huge amount of depth, and I think we kind of have a really nice kind of vision of what's happening going forward, and I really like what you were saying about this. Certainly in terms of some of the improvements. The last thing on my list is obviously the mesh network is the biggest thing that's on our list, and we're a couple of years in now. What's the progress of mesh network? What's it looking like?
Sure.
And are there going to be any demos before the end of this proposal?
Oh yeah. It's interesting. I hadn't thought about it much until I was just preparing for this interview, doing some thinking. You guys no longer can see the progress on the mesh because we moved mesh to a separate repository that's not under the Decred. So mesh is, we're doing it sort of, the development sort of privately now. Next week, I told Martin we're going to move it to a repo under the Bisoncraft org so that people can start following the progress. And yeah, so what we have is we have Martin and DNLDD, another developer that's been coming around doing a lot of work. They've switched everything over to using libp2p and made everything real slick and real efficient. And then we just got the oracles added in, and the remaining bits are database stuff for like reputation and bonds. But we don't even need that to begin testing the trading stuff, which is gonna the part that we need. Okay, I think Philemon was going to help me do this coming up. Probably the first proposal you're going to see out of those three that I was talking about is going to be one for core mesh UI integration for front end mesh. Let me start over. Front end mesh integration, which includes UI stuff, and we'll be testing that ASAP, a couple weeks. Yeah, we've gotten to the point where the mesh network protocol bits, the base communication parts are all set up, and we're ready to start playing with it live. Yep.
It would be really cool to get a live demo at some point, or some kind of screen capture of you guys are playing
Sure.
around with it and doing that. I mean, happy to run another live stream, or happy to kind of, if you guys put a video up on the Decred YouTube channel, or whatever. It'd be really nice to see how that's progressing. I think, that I like, the mesh network for me is this final piece of the puzzle, and then it can kind of go forward. And it's all about this being fully peer-to-peer, being fully permissionless, and
yes.
And this is something we shouldn't forget. That is the goal. And to my knowledge, even to this day, in all the ones I've heard about and people talk about, there is no exchange out there trying to be completely permissionless, trying to have no fees, trying to have no middlemen, no intermediaries, and that's why I'm still, and maybe people call me over optimistic, but that's why I'm still kind of in the camp that we need this tech, and I really wanted to see it keep going forward because it's so important, and I can't wait to see what you guys are doing with mesh, and the proposal that I think it was Martone put up just looked amazing and exciting to see that you weren't only thinking about atomic swaps, but you were thinking about other integration things as well, other use cases for it as well, which I thought was quite cool. Exus, anything to add on the mesh or anything else?
No, nothing. Just excited to see, what's to come for Bison Wallet. It's been kind of a cornerstone of trading for Decred for people looking to do permissionless swaps. And yeah, if we can fix the liquidity issues, I think it could really take off. That's the main question people are kind of asking, is how to incentivize liquidity. People have asked for Hummingbot. I asked Hummingbot, and they said, no, we can't do it on an atomic swap exchange. But I believe Jake is looking at ways to incentivize the market making and providing something similar to Hummingbot, where if you make orders on the books at a tight spread, you can be rewarded in Decred. So expect things on that. I think that's a focus right now.
No, and you've really pushed for that, and I think that you've brought it up on both mine and Jake's radar. That we're talking about this and everywhere now. So we're all, I think, working on the same problem now. We'll get there.
I mean, yeah, because Bison Wallet's it's great tech, but if you show up and there's kind of no, orders on the books, it's like, what can you do? Are you going to stick around and wait for orders, or are you just going to leave and go trade somewhere else? So, we have to make it into a viable alternative to the centralized exchanges, because the truth is, Mexi and Binance work very well, right? This is why everyone's using them. They're convenient. They work well. Yes, they custody your funds and they could technically, steal your funds, but they work. And I think it's all about turning this into a viable alternative, which is what kind of Thorchain and Near and these other dexes have done. And as a result, they have billions of dollars in volume and people are using them. Obviously, the big challenge with these atomic swaps is you need to have an always on system, right? Yeah. And most people don't. Even Phoenix says he doesn't have one. My last thing, I guess, is I have an Umbral. I have Bison Wallet on Umbral, and it works really well. But the problem is it's still on the version. It's on an older version, and that version was never updated. And in that update, it fixed the sync error. So what happened with the Decred SPV wallet, it would go offline and it would kick your entire system offline. So I was just curious, is there any way we can get that updated?
Yeah, we got V1.0.6 should be out this week. I have to get one more piece of software signed for that. Been working on getting that out, and I think that will solve the problem. And then actually doing the Umbral part, that's not. I don't know exactly how that's done myself, but yeah, thanks. I'll make sure that we get that done right away when we push the release.
Well, it might be worth bringing Peter Zen into the conversation, because I think he's the one that does all the Umbral releases.
Yeah, he's not going to be doing it anymore, but we'll get someone to get on that. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It uses Docker. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was great to talk to you guys. I think it was a great conversation. I don't know, Phoenix, if you have anything else.
Well, I mean, I always like to kind of end these on a positive, and I say, I'm a huge fan of everything Buck and the team are doing, and I think, like Exitus said, for me, it's just making sure that when people come to Bison Wallet, there's a user experience to have, and already I said this to Buck before the show started. I actually prefer the Bison Wallet UI to even Coinbase. I find it a lot easier to use. It just kind of works for me, and I'm completely biased, of course, but I like that, and I think once we have a continuity of liquidity, I think we literally start ticking off boxes, and especially with the light wallets as well. I think that's a huge thing. Just being able to have the one-click native light client wallets is an absolutely huge thing. And as far as the user experience go, that's like whoa. And everyone, when you use the Decred wallet or the Litecoin wallet, and you just click that one button as you're installing Bison Wallet, and it just happens straight away. And it's absolutely brilliant. So no, I think Buck's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for answering all the questions. But would you like to just kind of sign us off and just give us your final thought, and we'll bring this show to a close?
Yeah, one thought I had. I noticed. I don't follow the price very closely. I check in every once in a while, but I always know when we have a price spike, because I get a lot of messages all of a sudden from all over the place, and everyone, I sort of fair weather friends, and I see that both from randoms and from people who have been in the community a long time and whose names are associated very deeply with the project. And I want to just put the message out there that we need to maintain that sort of excitement even when the price is not spiking. I see a lot of people who want to pitch in and help out when the price jumps from 18 to 25, but when that price is slowly dripping back down to 20, all of a sudden they disappear. And if you want to be, if you really want to make this project, both Bison Wallet and Decred as a whole, something great, then we need you to stick around and do the work that's necessary to make that happen. So
I couldn't agree more. And I think, Decred's been building, in the last 10 years. We turned 10 in February next month. So we'll do a 10-year party for that. But in 10 years, the project hasn't stopped building, and it's absolutely incredible. And you see these kind of fluctuations in mentality where they're all down when we're low in price, and then when we're high, it's great, but nothing's changed. Decred is building. It's absolutely incredible. Yeah, nice point, Buck. Yeah. Fantastic. Go on, Exitus, sign us off, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Buck, for joining us and talking about the DEX. Certainly one of the most interesting parts of Decred today is you know, that exchange process, being able to buy and sell Decred with no KYC, no fees, in this permissionless manner, is really a cypherpunk way of acquiring Decred. You know, you're doing atomic swaps, and yeah, once we can fix the liquidity, I think it's going to be a great place to trade.